The following CBS 19 weather special is sponsored by Stonewater Roofing.
A very Arctic-like night out there with snow coming down at about an inch an hour snowfall rates.
Road conditions are very dangerous.
With our record-breaking cold, many lakes have frozen over.
Cities in East Texas are covered in that blanket of ice.
The White House has issued a federal emergency declaration for Texas.
Millions of Texans remain without heat and power 2 full days after the storm began.
Many of us are breaking records that were set back in the 1800s.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our CBS 19 weather special, Frozen Over, a look back at the winter storm. Of course, we're talking about the memorable winter storm of February 2021. We are just 3 weeks away from the anniversary of that storm.
Yeah, and that storm caused a lot of trauma last year as millions had to go without power for days.
Over the next half hour, we're going to give you several tips, including generator safety, an update on ERCOT's guidelines, as well as a look ahead at this winter's forecast.
But first, we're going to start with a look back at last year's winter storm.
Last year's devastating winter storm brought all-time record cold temperatures to East Texas, including right here in Tyler, where the all-time record low of 6 degrees below zero was set. Many organizations were devastated, including the East Texas Crisis Center. I spoke with Lena Peacock and Jeremy Flowers about what the East Texas Crisis Center had to do to serve East Texans after the storm and how far they've come since the damage they sustained.
Well, we lost electricity and the pipes started bursting, and it just has devastated some of our offices and parts of our emergency shelter.
Many lives and organizations were forever changed by last year's winter storm, including the East Texas Crisis Center. Flooded hallways, collapsed ceilings, and damaged documents caused distress and uncertainty when employees first returned to see what was left behind.
You know, I've been here for going on 16 years, so you know, this is like home to us. To come in and see this place damaged and destroyed and think about, you know, having to rebuild and start over again and be displaced was a little discouraging, and it was really disheartening knowing that the impact it had on the residents.
It was, well, there was a lot of damage up in the ceilings, like 100 pipes. There were hairline cracks or actually had burst. And so there was already a lot of damage to the ceiling. And there was a lot of insulation throughout this area, which we had to get that cleaned up.
Even when faced with overwhelming damage to their facility, employees of the East Texas Crisis Center knew they had to stay focused so they could continue to provide the services that thousands of East Texans needed.
We had mattresses stacked up as high as we could get them because we had to take everything out of all the bedrooms, all the offices, everything. And we probably have 30 offices at this facility. So
you had everything in here?
We had everything that survived damage, that was not damaged, we moved down here.
Even though repairs on the facility continue to this day, everyone at the Crisis Center has remained focused and committed to those who need them most.
Just to see the unity of the employees at the East Texas Crisis Center come together with a sense of urgency, knowing that we have a job to do and a service to provide to the community, and we never lost sight of that.
Could a winter storm as devastating and impactful as last year's happen again? Here's Chief Meteorologist Brett Anthony with an outlook for the rest of this winter.
February 2021, one for the record books in East Texas.
Brought us an anomalous event, an extreme event, the February Arctic outbreak, which brought record cold and snow to the region.
The burning question, will it happen again? That's impossible to say, but we can ask this question, can it happen again? And the answer is yes. Here's why. Global weather patterns are at work this winter. La Nina, Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation. And we know the weather pattern is cycling, and there's lots of cold air in Canada. The only question is, will it reach East Texas? All right, La Nina is in place. Similar weather pattern to last year. So far, we've seen dry and warm conditions. Will that continue? Well, it continues as long as the Arctic Oscillation remains positive. What's the Arctic Oscillation? It's a belt of winds about 55 degrees north latitude that hold the cold air up in Canada. But if strong high pressure develops near Greenland, it forces the jet stream to buckle. We see more storms into the middle part of the country, and colder air is allowed to surge southward. We say that's when the Arctic Oscillation is negative. We know the weather pattern is cycling. We've seen 2 storms in October, 1 in November, that have been repeating. Each one of these storms, as we move through February and March, have the possibility to create a winter storm or a severe weather setup.
So we've answered that question. Yes, it could happen again. But what type of weather pattern needs to set up for us to see a repeat of the Arctic outbreak in February?
Yeah, so we need access to that cold Arctic Canadian air. So there's 2 features that are global features, the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation. Those need to be in a negative phase to help give us access to that colder air. But then at the local weather pattern scale, we need high pressure to be up off to our northwest, helping to reinforce a northerly flow, bringing that colder air southward into the Arklatex region, into East Texas.
And with the weather pattern already producing severe weather setups during the fall and winter months, we can't let our guard down when it comes to severe weather.
But if you look at the years that we have La Nina on average, those average more tornadoes than any other pattern. So we can't let our guard down through the winter season. We still can get tornado outbreaks and deadly tornado outbreaks through the winter.
So our winter forecast recap looks like this: warmer than average temperatures and drier than normal when it comes to rain, sleet, and snow. We'll have short bouts of cold air and up to 3 snow or ice setups, near average rain and snow and ice, and 1 to 3 severe weather setups between now and March 1st.
Have they appropriately set heat tracing in place so that pipes don't freeze up?
Those who have not been proactive will be penalized swiftly and heavily.
Millions of Texans were left in the dark as the state became crippled with power issues following our February freeze. But some parts of the state managed to keep the lights on right here in our backyard. I'm standing on the Smith-Gregg County line. On one side, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, better known as ERCOT, operates here and across 90% of the state. On the other side, power comes from the Southwestern Electric Power Company, also known as SWEPCO.
There are more than 1,100 power plants in the Southwest Power Pool. So when there were issues, SPP could push electricity to us from other parts of the region.
Think of it like a highway system. If you're driving from Longview to Dallas and you ran into a major crash on the interstate, you would take a different route. During last year's freeze, the small 10% of Texas part of the regional power grid had the ability to pull power from other sources, limiting days left in the dark for some East Texans.
Southwest Power Pool has transmission lines that can move power over long distances, all the way up from the border with Canada down to East Texas.
However, both parts of the Piney Woods divided by these grids had their share of blackouts and outages. On February 16th, at least 4.5 million customers in Texas were without power, which equaled out to roughly 35% of Smith County without power under ERCOT, and in Gregg County, approximately 12% without power under SWEPCO. Caught unprepared, the power authorities were forced to winterize local power plants built for milder climates, so past mistakes would not be repeated again.
Have they put thermal blankets on the right types of equipment to make sure those thermal blankets keep those facilities warm? Have they appropriately set heat tracing in place so that pipes don't freeze up?
With the largest call for reform coming from leaders with ERCOT and the Public Utility Commission.
Those who have not been proactive will be penalized swiftly and heavily.
Going forward, power plants across the Texas grid will routinely be inspected with violators failing to comply, facing hefty fines. This is one small step in the recovery process from last year's lessons learned. Next up, meteorologist Chandler Jordan will explain how you can sign up for emergency alerts in case of a power failure.
After last year's winter storm devastated the independent electricity grid in our state, Texas legislators and those in charge at ERCOT decided that change was needed in order to better winterize the grid in case of an energy emergency. You might be wondering, what exactly is an energy emergency? It's when normal procedures aren't able to properly balance energy supply and demands. When this imbalance happens, a conservation alert can be issued. This is when ERCOT will ask you to reduce electric use. If proper supply and demand can't be reached quickly, ERCOT uses a 3-tiered energy emergency system. At Tier 1, ERCOT can call on all available power supplies, including using power from nearby grids. At Tier 2, ERCOT can reduce demand by interrupting power from large industrial consumers like warehouses who have contractually agreed to do so in case of an emergency. At Tier 3, when reserves are at their lowest, ERCOT will order power companies to conduct rotating power outages like the ones we experienced during last year's winter storm. If you're interested in receiving these alerts, there are ways you can sign up for them. You can download the ERCOT mobile app for emergency alerts, follow them on Twitter, or subscribe to their emergency alerts on their website. There are additional energy resources on the ERCOT website, as well as over on CBS19.tv. And of course, we'll be there for you if East Texas goes through another power crisis this winter.
What about some misconceptions about generators?
You don't want to get carbon monoxide into your house. We know it's odorless, we know it's colorless, and it can get in there, and before you know it, you start feeling the effects of it.
Even an insulated tank, again, like last year, the tank could rupture. You know, as it freezes and expands, something's got to give.
Thousands of people lost power during the Arctic outbreak back in February, and they don't want that to happen again. So a lot of folks have been telling me that they either bought or are going to buy a generator, but that comes with some safety concerns. So we came here to Longview to talk to Fire Marshal Kevin May about the do's and don'ts of generator safety. Kevin, what are some of those do's and don'ts?
So just some of the things that we like to educate people on is make sure that your generator is 10 to 15 feet away from your house. You have always got to keep the generators outside. You don't want to bring it into your garage. You don't want to put it into a room. This goes for your common gas grill. Anything like that that's going to produce carbon monoxide, you always want to keep it on the outside of your house. It's very important that your exhaust be facing away from your structure. We don't want that exhaust to be pointed towards a door or a window because you don't want to get carbon monoxide into your house. We know it's odorless, we know it's colorless, and it can get in there, and before you know it, you start feeling the effects of it. You get headaches, you get nauseated, you'll get the cherry red skin. So know your generator, know how to position it. Another thing that's real common is people, they'll try to fuel their generator either while it's running or they'll try to fuel it right after it runs out of gas. So you need to let this thing cool off, because if you spill that gas and it gets on that hot muffler, you could have a flash fire occur. It would be good practice to start your generator maybe once a month, just to make sure that it's ready. When you move your fuel switch to the on position, give it just a second so that way the gas can flow into the carburetor. You'll take your ignition switch and move it into the run, and then you would start your generator. When you're through using your generator, go ahead and turn your gas off and let it run out of gas in the carburetor, so that way you don't have the moisture build up in it. So if you have one that operates off of a battery, make sure that your battery stays charged. Make sure it doesn't have any corrosion on the terminals.
We covered do's and don'ts, but Kevin, what about some misconceptions about generators?
Yeah, so one of the things that I want to emphasize is you should never plug your generator into your house. A lot of people think you can just take an extension cord, plug it in here, plug it into a wall outlet, and you'll have electricity through your house. It's very dangerous because it could backfeed through the system, and it could actually get some electrical shock.
Okay, Kevin, so we've used our generator and it's time to put it away, but how soon can we put it away?
So you do want to wait until the generator cools down, because you don't want to store your generator with anything being hot on it. So let it sit 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and then go ahead and put it away safely.
Kevin May, Fire Marshal with the Longview Fire Department, thank you for those tips. We think and hope that those tips will keep everyone safe if you lose power this winter. One more thing about generators, you should probably get your name on a list, as supplies could be short. But what we know everyone has in their home is a hot water heater. And when temperatures dip below freezing, there can be all kinds of problems. Colleen Campbell's here now to talk about those problems that people faced last year.
Hey, Brett, yeah, when temperatures took a plummet, we really had a domino effect here. People lost electricity and the water stopped running.
One costly bill many East Texans had to face was a repair or restoration of their hot water heaters after being damaged during the freeze.
The below zero temperatures and the power outages, you have to have power for the tankless water heater to operate, some form of power. The conventional style water heater, the good thing about it is it doesn't require any power. It runs off of a thermocouple.
There are several types of hot water heaters, but the two most common in East Texas households would be the conventional tank water heater or the tankless water heater, and both can freeze if water is left inside.
Tank is insulated, but after a long period of time, even an insulated tank, again, like last year, the tank could rupture. You know, as it freezes and expands, something's got to give.
According to the pros, most people turn to tankless for efficiency. Unlike the conventional storage tank, the water heats instantaneously by moving through a heat exchanger within the unit, but below zero cold can stop that too.
Copper expands and it'll rupture inside that exchanger and start spraying water inside the unit.
So how could you prevent these problems?
Just some basic insulation you could wrap around the piping system inside.
You can also wrap the exposed piping on the conventional tanks located on the top of the unit. And don't forget the connecting faucets. If you're experiencing a power outage,
there are battery backup systems now for tankless water heaters. That'll give you a little bit of time for that tankless to still operate. We have backup generators, of course, and they're getting real popular now.
And if you're not expecting the power to return soon, there is a third option.
Call your local plumber, because he can turn it off and drain the unit, save the unit. There are precautions you can take.
We're not out of the woods yet. We have a long way to go in winter. So certainly the elements are there for a repeat. It's just been so warm, but certainly we're not out of the woods yet. We have a long way to go in winter.
Oh yeah, and we've already had a few blasts of Arctic air there, so it's possible.
Yeah, definitely given the setups we already had and the time that we have left, I wouldn't be surprised if we got some cold air and maybe a little wintry weather to mix in with that.
Yeah, we just have to have the things come together just right. A little bit of cold air, a system moving through the southern Texas and along the Gulf of Mexico, pulls in that moisture, and suddenly we're dealing with rain, sleet, and snow. So there's certainly a chance to still have average cold and snow for the rest of the winter.
But no worries, you can get ahead of the game. You can download our CBS 19 app, and from there you'll be able to keep up with all of your latest weather information needs.
And don't forget, you can also follow us on social media, Facebook and Twitter.
Thanks for watching our CBS 19 weather special, Frozen Over, a look back at the winter storm. Have a great night, everyone.